All right. Um, okay. Well, this is something I've been kind of wanting to do for a while. I gotta go bounce my leg because I'm on my laptop, so it's on my lap. So yeah. I'm not much for journaling, so I don't know. I kind of want to do kind of a video log type deal, maybe once a week. I don't know how strict I'll set to it. Maybe once every time I feel like it. I don't know. Maybe every time something interesting happens. But I kind of want to do kind of a personal journal via video, if that makes sense. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of things that go through my mind on a daily basis, and writing them down, I don't know, I can't write as quickly as I think, and then my brain switches to something else, and all of a sudden it's gone, and I'm not, I didn't write it down. And then going back, if it's handwritten, I can't read my own writing, and if it's typed, well, it's I don't know, easy to lose. It's a lot to go through. I've always liked video as a media source versus text. I feel like it's just a lot more. It's easier to express emotion, if that makes sense. So this is gonna be the first one, and I want this to kind of be an intro to me, Derek Edwards. And kind of a brief history of kind of what I've done in my life. Not nothing super intense. Like very briefly over childhood, after I moved out, where I'm at in life now, as kind of a way to I don't know begin my I don't know my life journey. I guess if that makes sense. I'm OCD. It's fine. This is just there we go. Now there's an equal size here. Anyway, uh, so I'm sitting in my apartment where I live with Justin, my brother. It's in Roy, Utah, and it's 8 o'clock, and it's like the 6th or something of November 2017. So that's where we're at here. Up to this point, I don't know. I've had a lot. I've had a lot happen in my life. I've had a lot of things, and I feel like I'm a very quiet person. I never talk to anybody. I never let any of this out, and I don't know. I'm afraid that it's never going to be known, and no one's ever going to know who I was or what I'm going through. Especially because ever since I moved out, I've been on my own for real. I visit home every once in a while, but that's it. Even my best friends through high school, I don't talk to them on a daily basis, and occasionally when we do talk, it's always just about life, and I say a lot of things that I wish could be expressed more than just to my friends, if that makes sense. And I say if that makes sense a lot of times. Anyway, so yeah, this is going to be my first video log, I guess, and it feels weird. I'm sure the more I do it, the more I'll get used to it, but it feels very strange talking to a computer, but I'm sure it's something that I'll get used to over time. Random notice, my hair is stupidly long. Holy crap. I'm getting that cut like tomorrow, but the back is, yeah, crazy. So anyway, history so far. As a kid, I don't remember a lot of my childhood. Another reason I want to do this, my memory is crap. I don't remember hardly anything from my childhood. I have the occasional snap memory. I attach memories to things. That's why I collect a lot of things because it's the only way that I have that memory is like a database. Even when someone reminds me of something, I go, "Oh yeah, that happened." Sure. I don't know. They know. They tell me. I'm like, okay, that's a memory of mine, even though I don't remember it. I remember that someone told me that it happened. If that makes sense. So as a kid, I don't remember a lot. I know I was a very creative, weird, unique kid, kind of quiet. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. From what my mom tells me anyway, when I was really young, I didn't try my hardest, like learning, and in school I didn't do very well. I was always held back. And then, I don't know, I learned how to adjust, how to, I don't know, live in this world, I guess, which every kid has to find out, but I feel like it took me a little bit longer. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I'm fine with that. I've always liked having few quality friends versus a lot of kind of meh friends, if that makes sense. That's why even nowadays I don't have a lot of friends. But I've always been quiet, always. I've never really spoken my mind. I've never been a forward person. I've never been one to stand out intentionally. I stand out in a lot of ways that are unintentional, but I never specifically try to stand out. I never have. That's something I'm actually working on. I want to be more out there, and I'll get into that much later. But basically, yeah. So I was a quiet kid. Didn't have a lot of friends. I was very creative, always building stuff, always using my imagination. That's something I'm very proud of, even to this day. I'm a very creative person. I've learned a lot through trial and error over and over and over again, a lot of different things. And I feel like as an Edwards, maybe this sounds cocky and ridiculous, but as an Edwards, um, I feel like we just know things. There's a lot that we just understand. And having friends growing up, there were things that I understood that they just didn't, and it was weird to me. And I kept trying to explain that, and everyone would get mad at me for not having a reason why I know it. I'm like, well, I just know it. I just do. And the thing is, I'm almost always right. And it sounds cocky and ridiculous, but I don't know. I think that's one of my better qualities is I have a very good understanding of things. I have a good ability to stand back and take kind of a outside view of almost anything, and create a perspective and a good unbiased opinion of things. So that's kind of, I don't know, that's me, I guess. That's my childhood anyway. High school, I was never a popular kid. I had my group of friends, Sierra, Alan, Short Sierra, Chris, Jacob. Those were the core of us who were a tight knit team. So much drama, stupid amounts of drama. But I was always the one who held everyone together. I was the link between Sierra, and Alan, and Chris and Jacob. I was that link, and I always felt responsible for every time we hung out. I would identify, all right, who's being left out, who's being quiet, how can I include them? And I've always been that kind of a person to try and include everybody because a lot of times I'm that person, that in a scenario where I'm not in control or recognized, I'm that person who's left out, who's quiet, who's in the corner, not really interacting. And I've always wished that someone would come up to me and include me and realize that because I don't know, I'm not the kind of person to just go out there and be social by myself. Excuse me. So I've always tried to identify people like me and include them because I know that sometimes that's all anyone needs. And a lot of times when I was younger, that was something that I always wished. I always wished that someone would realize me. There's a funny little quote. I don't even know how it goes, but essentially it's like honestly I don't know. But what it comes down to is like quiet people need an outgoing person to take them under their wing. And to try and pull them out. And Jacob was that for me for the most part. Chris was I don't know how in depth I want to get this. Like for people who don't know me well, these references might not make sense. But Chris was a friend from my neighborhood that I hung out with. Originally, we hated each other when I first moved into the neighborhood. But eventually, we became really really good friends, and today we're still friends. And he was kind of like me. I just kind of socially awkward, but also creative, and we had our different talents that weren't your normal talents. And Jacob was he was in my orchestra class. I think I met him through Alan or vice versa. I don't even know. No, I met Jacob through Nathan Richards. I met Alan through Jacob. Yeah, it's a whole story. But Jacob was that for me. He was my buffer is what I always call him. The person that when I'm talking to him and when I'm with him, I become a much more social person because I'm bouncing it off of him, and it gives me a lot of motivation and I don't know, confidence, I guess. I haven't had that since high school, and so yeah, so that's kind of my high school days, I guess. After high school, in high school, I started dating Sierra Hinckley. I don't know how much I want to get into that, but essentially after high school, she went and moved to Logan to go up to USU, and I decided to follow her. I mean, I know I tell a lot of people that I went there just because it was a good place. It wasn't home. It wasn't too far away. It was close enough, and I might go to USU. But in reality, I followed Sierra 100%. I was in love with her, honestly. I can 100% say that with honesty. And I followed her down there, and honestly, it was a great decision. I was 18. It was the end of the summer after I graduated, I believe, is when I moved down to Logan. And it was all new for me. And honestly, I did not do it correctly. I drove down there. I found the first place that said that they had an open apartment. It was a one bedroom, one bathroom apartment, and I paid for it. And I was there. I had something like $2,500 saved up. I thought I was set. Life was going to be easy, and it was not. But the first job I got was actually at Conservice. I'm very proud of that. It was the first real job I had, I guess. All of my jobs up to that point were, electrical apprentice with my dad, concrete work with my neighbor, temp work that was just, a job here or there. I'd never had something that I went in, I applied for, it was brand new, I was taken in and had to learn a whole new system. It was never something I was familiar with. And so that was my first job there. So a bunch of new things. I moved to a new city, a new state, honestly. I have nobody around me that I know. I get this new job. And I don't really remember how I felt back then, but I feel like I felt good, and I felt good about it. And nowadays looking back on that, that was 2014, and it's 2017 now. What is that? 3 years, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. Um, I miss those days a lot. I really do. That apartment was crap. It really was. The appliances were outdated. It had a weird smell to it. The carpet was old. Everything was old. And I was paying, $425 a month in rent plus like $200-300 in utilities. I'm paying way too much for this place. But it was mine. It was the first my place. And that was so cool to me. And Logan, still means a lot to me. A lot happened in that I don't really want to get into in this. But I don't know. It was my first time, in my own place, on my own, making my own decisions, and being completely reliant on myself. One thing that I pride myself on is, never asking for help or asking for money. Now, with one exception, I'll get into that, but like I've never asked my parents for money. I've always been very good, unfortunately, at spending exactly the amount of money that I make. So I never have been good at saving, but I've always been good at having enough money to pay my bills. I'm always aware of what bills are coming up, what bills I need to pay. I've always been good that way. I've just never been good at managing the excess because I like things. I collect watches. That's my passion. It's an expensive one. Okay, let me explain why I'm itching my nose all the time. I just had pizza. Pizza makes my nose itchy always. I was gonna say I don't know why, but I do. I can't remember what it's called, but some people are sensitive to a common ingredient in pizza. I can't remember what it's called. It's something that's in one of the ingredients, but it actually is a common thing. It makes your nose itch really, really bad. So I apologize for that. Not super pleasant to look at, but anyway, back to Logan. So I was living in Logan. I didn't really make friends. My job was Conservice, like I said. It's a utility billing company. So I had it wasn't a cubicle. It was just a desk. It was an open layout, so it just had desk next to each other. But I kept very much to myself. The job that I had there was it was a brand new position. They sat me down. They said, "Hey, this is what we want you to do. Find out a way to do it." And I love that. I thrived under that. As far as I wasn't going to get into this now, but I kind of want to. That job was amazing. Taking something that didn't exist and just completely building it out to the point where I was creating new docs. I was managing hundreds of docs, thousands of accounts, and I was constantly on the internet. I was constantly improving and coming out with new ways to do things and helping my team be better. And originally it was just me, but eventually people started being hired on to help me, essentially. And so my little team grew, and I got to train people on this process that I essentially built. And even today, I mean, this just sounds cocky, but I completely attribute eBill setup in the single family side of things to me. That was me. That was my baby for 2 or 3 years, something like that. And I was in that job the entire time, for all of that time. And it was just so good. It was so much fun for me. I've always thrived at, like I said, analyzing the situation, seeing it as a big picture, and then improving on that, and always improving on that. Never being happy, never being content, and never stopping working. And I got that work ethic 100% from my dad. He's an amazing man. Outworks everybody. I mean, just that man is incredible. He has so much energy. Never stops working. Sometimes it's a little annoying. He can neglect his family a little bit, but I mean, I look up to my dad a lot, and that's something I don't say very often. I want to be very honest in these videos. I'm very much look up to my dad. If I turn out to be half the man that he is, I'll be happy. So anyways, yeah, so really good work ethic there, and I love that job. And so many people came in and out of that job, and I always stayed there. I was the one consistent player there. And so my team leads came to rely on me a lot for feedback and help and training. I watched some of my friends that were in that group, in that team, kind of move on to these better positions, and that's kind of how I built my friend base, I guess. And I don't even want to call it that. Really, it was just work friends. There was one, Paul Grish is the only person that I've ever really hung out with outside of work. Um, and I don't know, it felt like family almost. I loved going to work because that's where I interacted with people. That's where I was comfortable. I enjoyed my job. Was really good at my job. All of my performance reviews were always fantastic. I was shouted out constantly for things. I always tried to go above and beyond and never sit content because I feel like there's always room for improvement. And the more you're improving, the better you're going to get, essentially. Um, and so, I love that job, honestly. Thinking back, those are the days. Oh, I miss that. My dinky little apartment, driving my old freaking Buick that more things were broken than worked that I got for $400 off of Sierra's parents. That was getting all nostalgic here. I think since graduation, I have a lot more memories. I have a hard time remembering things, but I do have more memories than I don't know that I like to let off. Um, so yeah, living in my little place. Um, I'm trying to decide if I should go into my life outside of work or my life inside work because there's just a lot I want to go over, but I don't want to waste too much. I've already been going for about 16 minutes now. So all right, since I'm talking work, I'll just go ahead and talk work. Um, so yeah, that work is my family. It was my baby. I did a lot for the single family team, and I was underpaid for it. I was appreciated, but I I should have been paid more money, which is, I don't know, maybe cocky to say, but whatever. It was really really fun, and I could have progressed within Conservice had I wanted to. At the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to a semester of school, college up at USU. Then I went to another semester a little bit later, and Conservice was nice enough to work with me. I was the only person allowed to work as late as I was working. They were very flexible with me, and I don't know, I decided that school, at least at the moment, is not for me. I originally wanted to go into civil engineering, and I can't stick with it. I don't have the drive, I guess. And I don't know, I think a lot of people need school. I think some people don't. I think people need it for different reasons. I think that me personally, I don't need a full 4 year college experience. I think if I can get, like, for instance, I'm looking into Stevens Seneca College. They have a 3 year program in business. I think a very directed course would be good for me and would be something that I would really flourish in. So I decided no on school, and so before I went to that second semester, I had actually applied for and got a new job within Conservice, and it was a career position. My position, from the beginning to end of that employment was kind of a floater position. People would come in and out of it all the time. If you get that job, you're not expected to stay. You're expected to move on. It's kind of a starter position. I remained there for the full 2 or 3 years. But at one point, I did apply for and get a job that was on the IT side of things. And I don't honestly know exactly what would have gone into it, but it would have been a very technical, a career position, extra hours. And I think I would have loved it and done really, really well. And I think had I chosen that, um, then my life would be very different. Because I think I would have gotten ingrained in the Conservice culture, and I probably would have stayed in Logan, honestly. I don't really know what that would have meant for the rest of my life, but I think that's something that would have happened. So I decided after I got that job, I had to turn it down because I wanted to go to another semester of school. And with a career position and the hours, it just didn't line up. And so I stayed in Eagle Setup. Um, and that's not something that I resent. I really liked Eagle Setup a lot. Like I said, it was my baby. And even up until the time I left, it was so hard for me to leave Conservice. It was one of the hardest decisions of my life, to be honest. Because it was all I knew. It was like moving away from home again. Like I said, I don't have all of these memories that attach me to, back in Rexburg, like I used to, or like I do with Logan right now. That's super confusing, but whatever. Um, and it was so hard. I remember walking out. I made really, really good friends with Taryn Clark, the short little spunky girl that had joined the Eagle Setup team. Oh, what was it? 3 or 4 months before I left. Honestly, brightest part of my day. She was a blast to work with, and she walked me out to the front door. We used to go on walks and talk about all kinds of stuff. honestly one of the closest friends that I've had. Um, Unfortunately, we don't talk anymore. It was all a work relationship, but she walked me down there, and I just paused, and I was so afraid to walk through those doors because I knew I was never coming back. And then I did, and I walked out to my car, and I sat down in my car, and I just cried for like a solid 20 minutes. I just cried, and now I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it, because it was so hard for me to leave that. That was my family. Like I had zero friends outside of conservatives because I didn't do anything. My life, and now I'll kind of jump into my life again, but my life was go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work. That was it. I didn't go to church. I didn't go to parties. I was never a partier. I didn't go to events. I didn't get out ever. I don't think I interacted with anybody for real outside of work for the entirety of my existence in Logan. Um, so for the first part, I was living in this little apartment, this one room, one bedroom, one bathroom apartment. And the way that it was situated, you'd walk in, the front door, it was a basement apartment, so you go down the stairs, and there's my door on the right. You walk in, your first room was kind of your family room. There was a window on the right-hand side, and then there was just kind of a big area. And then there was a hallway, there was a closet on the right side of the hallway. On the left side was the kitchen. And there was it was kind of like a bar. You had like a solid wall, and you had a little bar that came out from the wall, and there was a gap, so you could look through the kitchen to the living room, and a pillar on the right hand side. And there was the pillar or the kitchen on the inside, and then you walk down the hallway, and it would lead to the one bedroom on the left side. That was the bathroom. On the right side was another window and a closet on the back wall. And honestly, I used the front room more as the bedroom. I never really used the bedroom. I didn't have a couch. I had a TV and Xbox. I had my bed that was, once you walk in directly to the left, the bed is sitting there. Man, that place. It was crappy, but it was mine. It was my first place, and I still get nostalgic about it. And Sierra actually moved in with me. I think we lived together for about a year. Things were pretty interesting between us. I really, really don't want to delve into that too much. But eventually we had decided that we needed to break up, date other people. There was a whole mess of issues there. Me as a person, I was just not in a good place. I mean, I don't really know how to explain it, I guess. I don't know, like I said, I went to work, I came home, I watched YouTube, I played video games, I went to bed, I woke up, I went to work, and that was it. I didn't get out, and I didn't have a good attitude about much of anything, honestly. And there was a whole lot of issues between Sierra and I took out my issues on her, she took out her issues on me. We decided we had to break up, which meant we had to move out. And so from there, I moved to. Was there a different place? I don't think so. Yeah, so from that apartment, I moved to a little place that was honestly only like a couple of blocks up the road. But it was with 5 guys, and I was pretty excited about that, honestly. I thought I was going to make more friends, we were going to do things, but what it turns out to be is that they already kind of knew each other, and it's actually a super weird story. I have no idea how, but I got a text from somebody, and I was looking for a place pretty frantically because our lease was running out. I had to find a place to live. I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I get this text from someone. They say, "Hey, I heard you were looking for a room. I have a place for rent." And I was like, "What? I have not talked to anybody about this at all." And to this day, I have no idea how it came about. But it turned out that it was this Christian pastor and his wife. They had, it was 7 sons or something, and the first one was college age now. And so they had bought a house that they were going to rent out so that their kids could, live there all the way through the 7 kids for as long as they needed to go to college. And so I met up with the guy. I was a great fit. We went to the house. It was very fun. I got my own room. So it ended up being that the cool guys, the ones that I would have meshed with, were in the basement, and they kind of knew each other already. They were already friends, so they weren't looking to make friends, And then upstairs were the Christian guys. There was two Christian guys and then me, and they were already friends with each other, and they had their group of friends. And so I was just kind of a loner in this place, and I stayed that way the whole time. Honestly, I don't even know what their names were, to be honest. One of them was called Buddy. That's about all I know. But that was kind of an older place, but I really enjoyed that place. I made my room my own. I had a futon, I had my bed, I had a closet, I had a desk. I had all this stuff. And I spent my life in there for I think it was only like three to 6 months. Was it a year? I don't know. It was a while, I guess. But yeah, so I didn't end up making friends there either. It was kind of the same thing. It was hang out with Sierra, go to work, pay my rent, and that was it, honestly. Um, and I made the decision while I was living there that I wanted to go to a school in Kaysville. I wanted to go to a tech school for architectural and engineering design because I had taken a CAD class at college that I really, really enjoyed and I was really good at. And I wanted to kind of pursue that. So I started looking at it, and then I started looking at job opportunities in the Kaysville, Salt Lake area, and I came across one that was Manage America. And so they actually reached out to me because I had put on my LinkedIn resume or whatever. Actually, I think it was Indeed that I was looking for a job and I had utility billing experience. So Manage America is another utility billing company, and they kind of I don't know stole me away from Conservice. It was a work from home opportunity. I had a couple of phone interviews. I never had to go in for an interview because their home office is in something like San Francisco or something. Um, and so I decided I wanted to take this job. I thought it was going to be a really, really good job, and I wanted to. It was a work from home, which I thought I was going to love. And they said they were very tech forward, and it was kind of a cool position, and I would be doing a lot in Excel docs, and I've always been really, really good at formulas in Excel and data management and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be a great job, so I took it. And it just so happened that someone was interested in buying out my contract immediately, so I up and moved. I actually moved in with Erica, my sister, and Brett down in not Kaysville, Taylorsville. So that's where I moved in with them, um, and I was nervous at first, to be honest, just because it had been years since I had really talked with Erica, because once I moved out, like I said, I kept to myself, and even before that, when she got married to Brett, we just didn't talk. We were close as kids, but we just kind of grew apart. So I was nervous because I'm not a social person. I was afraid of what I was going to say, or when I had to say things, or what I was going to do, and it scared me a little bit. But I took the job. I said, okay. I moved down there, moved in with her. I don't know. I started working from home, obviously, and that job sucked. It really, really did. I was only with them for 3 months. Essentially, what I did, we would get emails. We managed these clients, and these clients would send emails to me. I had to download the PDF, extract the PDF, upload the PDF, and repeat over and over and over and over and over again. And I was being transferred from this lady who's been doing this for years and years and years for them. And they had asked me to innovate, basically, and come up with new systems and new ways to do things that are more efficient and better. And so I thought I would do really, really well there. But it turns out that it was just terrible. I hated it. I hated working from home because, if I'm not forced to interact with people, I'm not going to. End of story. The entire time I lived with Erica, I never interacted with anyone other than my family because there was nowhere to do so. And so that job sucked. It really did. It was very high stress, and there was a lot put on me that was unreasonable. And they said, "Oh well, we're going to start you here, but we're going to expect that you kind of evolve." And I don't think they realized, because we were training him as much as they were training me on the whole process, and he just didn't realize that this job was essentially data input or inputting data, and that was it. There was no time for anything else. That's all there was to it. And so I didn't want a job for that. I know that I've always had a lot of potential and a lot of skills. And I felt like they were being wasted there. I will say that I loved my time working there because I was living with Erica, and it was so much fun. I know nowadays, I'm Marco Poloing Erica, and we text, we chat, and it was so good. I have a good relationship with Brett now. I have a really good relationship with Erica now. That's something that I've been missing. and I feel like I can rely on them a lot more than I ever could before. And then when I was working, I used to go upstairs all the time because she's a stay-at-home mom with Kaylee Joe, and I would just hang out with Kaylee and Erica, and it was just so much fun. I mean, I hated the job, but I loved the freedom that I got from it. It was kind of like a vacation or a break because the job was easy. I just hated it. um, and a lot of times, I mean, so I was supposed to start work at like 8 or whatever. I would wake up at 8, I would clock in, and I would go back to bed until 11 because my job did not matter enough for me to be conscious for those hours. It was an easy job to do. It was low stress, and I don't know. And I didn't feel appreciated. I felt like they were always, I don't know, getting mad at me or um, blaming me for things they shouldn't have. That were on the system and the way they were doing things, not on me personally. And I felt very attacked that way, and I didn't feel like it was a good environment for me. So what I did is I started looking for a job. I started looking in the Salt Lake area. I wanted to stay around that area. I still wasn't sure if I wanted to go to this tech school in Kaysville. Um, and I was looking around. I was just like, I don't know what I want to do because I don't have the credentials to have a high-profile job, but there's not a lot of low-profile jobs. Like I wanted an office. I wanted a 9 to 5. And there's just not a lot of that around. That I don't know the words. I've been in love with the show The Office for such a long time, and I've always wanted that, that camaraderie, that environment, and the small office parties and all that kind of stuff. And so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I got the idea to look into sales, which is weird because I'm not a social person. I'm not a talker. I hate talking on the phone. My years at Conservice, I was never on the phone, and it was so outside of my comfort zone. And I wanted to try it, especially because watching The Office, like I said, Jim and Dwight are paper salesmen, and I was like, that looks like a blast. It looks like so much fun. And I've always been a really, really hard worker. I have always outworked everyone else on my team, and a lot of times you just don't get rewarded for that, especially at Conservice. I would always have double the numbers of everyone else, and it just didn't matter. It really just didn't at all. And so I was like, you know what? All right, let's try sales. I want to try something that is going to push me, that's going to pull me out of my bubble, that's really going to make a difference in my life, because the way that I was sitting, it was just not conducive to a good lifestyle. I wasn't progressing anywhere. I was sitting, and like I said earlier, I hate being stagnant. I always want to be improving and trying new things and being proactive, and I'm not good at that unless I'm forced. So I found two different jobs that I applied for a whole bunch of jobs, but only got interviews for 2, and both sales jobs. One was in heart of Salt Lake. And it was a really cool office building. I loved the feel of walking into that interview because it was a cool office building. It was a big city, and I loved that idea of that. And I interviewed for that. And essentially what that job is you call companies and you say, hey, who's your freight provider? Who is driving the semi-trucks that are transporting your stuff? And can we be your provider? And then I would connect them essentially to a trucking company, and I would make money by connecting them. Very low profile job. Basically they said, okay, we're going to pay you 40 hours a week, but if you don't work 60 hours a week, you're not going to be making money. And bonuses were out a while. And I don't know, when I had the interview, the guy just came off like a douche. Like he just came off as like your typical salesman, just douche. Like, I don't know. And the environment was cool, but everyone looked dead. And there was not a lot of people. It was kind of a new startup branch of a company just within the Salt Lake area. The money would have been better, but I don't know, I didn't feel it there. Then I went and interviewed to my current job, AdRoll. Well, technically it's MarketStar. AdRoll is the client. So what MarketStar is, they're an outsourcing company. So clients will pay MarketStar to put a team together and sell their products. And so AdRoll is the client, MarketStar is the company I work for. And I went in for the interview there. And I talked, it was a group interview at first, and then they broke us off. We got to interview with 2 managers twice. So I interviewed with a set of managers once, and then a set of managers the second time. And they had prepared us, and they had sent us a bunch of material, about the company. They said, hey, get familiar with this. You're going to be selling this to us in the interview. So I was terrified because I've never done anything like that before ever. So I go in here, and I'm kind of quiet, obviously, and I go into this meeting with these two managers, and it went so well. They loved me. When it came to the pitch, I'm so proud of this fact. So I pitched the product. I tried to sell it to them as what I thought would be a good pitch. I mean, I've never been a salesman. I don't know this product at all. And they were like, wow, that's one of the best pitches we've heard. Are you sure you don't know somebody who works here? And I was like, no, this is totally new to me. And it was so good that the second pair, normally you only pitch to the first pair, and the second pair is just general questions. The second pair said, hey, we heard your pitch was so good, I want you to give it to us. And so I did. I gave it to them again. And they actually threw a curveball at me, and I was able to handle it really, really well. And the guy was like, man, I tried to throw a curveball at you to throw you off, and you just nailed it. And I was so proud of that interview because, I don't know, I feel like I always do well in interviews, but never that well. Like, it went so well, and the whole environment just felt very cool and very, very fun. I don't know. So I was excited, and I left that job. So that job was in Ogden, and I was living in Salt Lake, so it was about an hour drive one way. So I'm driving back towards Erica's house, and I get a phone call. And I'm not even back to Erica's house yet. I get a phone call, and I answer the phone, and they say, hey, they were really impressed with you. We're going to offer you the job. And I was so proud of that. I didn't take them because I was told I wouldn't find out until, so this was a Friday. They told me I wouldn't find out until the following Monday probably. And so I was just thinking I was going to spend this weekend just thinking about it. And they called me before I even got home, said, okay, you have the job. And I was so proud of that. And it was great. And I still was living with Erica. I hadn't found a place in Ogden yet. And so I was making that commute every single day for, I think it was like 2 or 3 months. I made that commute every day, which makes you, traffic between the two cities is not good. Let's just put it that way. But luckily, I was going the right way because normally people are going into Salt Lake in the morning, out of Salt Lake in the afternoon or evening. I was the opposite. So it wasn't as bad, but it was still a nightmare. But I don't know. It was just, it felt good. It felt new. I got this job and I was in so much training, and I was just taking it in. I've taken more notes training for this job than I did in the full year of schooling that I did, like actual college. And I'm very much a note taker, and I've just loved it. I've really adapted really, really well, and I've soaked in the knowledge, and I've become kind of an expert within Adderall as far as the product goes. And actually, it kind of makes me feel good. I've been told a couple times, asked like, have you done this before? And I'm like, no, this is completely new to me. I'm just doing the best I can, and apparently I'm doing really well. And I really am proud of that fact. This job is so far outside of my comfort zone. It's ridiculous. Every day, I have anxiety, and especially the weekends. It's so hard to go back on Monday to know that I'm going to have to get on the phone. I'm going to have to ninja direct a conversation and try to sell something. I have to make 30 cold calls every single day, and it's so hard for me. But I feel like already I've grown so much. I mean, I don't think I ever would have made this, working at Conservice. So yeah, I mean, every day is a nightmare. It terrifies me. But I'm so proud of myself for doing that, for trying to step outside of my comfort zone so that I can grow, because I know there's a lot of room for growth. I'm a quiet person, and I feel like I have all this potential that's just bottled up and it's not going anywhere. And I've been, researching avenues to do that. I have ideas for startup companies. I've been looking into different ways to be making money outside of your usual 9 to 5 hourly wage. And everything comes down to people, connections, and connecting with people. And I'm just not good at that. And so I've been trying really hard, especially with this job, to really put myself out there. And it may seem insignificant to a lot of people, and I'm definitely still shy. I'm definitely still quiet. I definitely don't engage with a lot of people, but it's a lot more than I ever have in the past. Now, I mean, I'm comfortable on the phone. I'm comfortable making cold calls and making appointment calls. And that's something I was never good at or comfortable with. So I know it's working. I mean, one really, really cool thing with my current job, and I'm very proud of this as well. I mean, I've been kind of identified as one of the more, I have more potential than a lot of people. And so I've actually gone and met with all of the managers on the direct team. I met with the agency AE direct team. I met with my floor manager, with his manager, with the manager above that. So I've made myself known to all of these different people. And even though, like, as far as numbers and quota goes, I'm not performing well. I mean, when I started out, I went in the completely wrong direction. I tried to reinvent the wheel when I should have just been rolling with the wheel. And if I had done that, I'd be in a lot better place now. But I mean, I'm learning from my mistakes, and I'm trying to, progress constantly, and really do a lot better. Oh my gosh, this has been going for 40 minutes. Um, but yeah, so I try to make myself known, and everyone's very impressed with me, and they see that I have potential, which I appreciate because I do, and I love being identified as someone with potential because then people help me, and especially in this job, there's so much potential. I mean, right now I'm working with my manager, and I am a manager in training, and what that means is that now I'm leading huddles in the morning. I'm going to start going to manager training or manager huddles. I've been given a couple of books to read, on crucial conversations and how to act as a manager and how to manage people in sales. And I've loved it. I've really, really thrived. Tuesday, actually, just a couple days ago, today's Thursday. Tuesday, I had my very first huddle that I got to manage. And normally when I go to huddle, so what all huddle is all of us on our team, we just get together, we go over kind of the past day's numbers, where we're at, where we need to be. It's pretty simple. And normally I just kind of stand in the back, stay quiet, and leave when it's over. And so Tuesday I was asked to lead the huddle and try to get some experience there. And so instead of waiting till everyone was there and going into the back, I got there first. I got right up in the front, and I was engaging. I was talking to my coworkers, just casually having conversation before the real huddle started. And then once it started, I dived into the numbers. I tried to shout out a couple of people who did really well. I set some goals for people. I tried to get everyone pumped for the day. And then I was active in the Slack channel. Slack, by the way, is basically like it's just a chat tool. It's like Google Hangouts, but it's a little bit more internal. And we have a chat channel for just our team that's we're pretty active. We shout out launches and questions and all that kind of stuff. And I was constantly shouting out like the phone dashboard, so how many dials and how much talk time we have. And I was challenging everyone to try and beat me because I had gotten 49 dials the previous day. The next highest person was at 29. So I was trying to make it a little bit of a game, and I really thrived that morning, and it went really, really well, and I enjoyed it. Today was Thursday, so now I'm leading the huddles on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So today was my second time, and again, it went well. It felt really, really good. I mean, I'm excited to become more authoritative, and I don't know, just out there, I guess. And I told my manager straight up. I said, this is my job. I took this job trying to get out of my shell. I'm a quiet person. I'm sure you've noticed that. And I need help, essentially. And she said, okay, Derek, I will help you pull you out of your shell. I'm going to get you where you want to go, as long as you're willing to work with me. And obviously, I'm trying my hardest here. I'm putting in stupid amounts of work. Another cool thing, so Tom is a manager. So there's, I think, 4 managers, and he's one of them. And he is very direct and he has a really, really good work ethic. And then Jake is one of the people on his team, just a salesman. And they just work so hard. They really do. They work like 10 hours a day. And so recently, like this past, I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks now. Time flies with this job. I've been working like 10 hours, 9 or 10 hours. So I usually go in at 8 or 8:30. I don't take a lunch, and I end up leaving at 6 or 6:30. I'm trying to put in enough work that I can, if not hit my goals, at least prove that I'm trying. And now every day they come over before they leave, and they're like, "Hey, you're one of us." The 3 musketeers or whatever, the 3 amigos that are working too much. And it's fun for me, to be identified as this elite person when I know that I am, and it sounds cocky, but I know that I am. I've always outworked people. I've always had a very analytical view of things. And I love that it's being recognized in this job, and I'm really trying to develop on that. And it's kind of a slow process, but I know I'm going to get there. As long as I don't get fired. That's honestly my biggest worry, is that because I still haven't hit goal, that I'm going to get fired. Which they don't fire you if you're working hard, and clearly I'm working hard, and I have this potential. So it's just a matter of finding what works for me. And I've been trying a lot of things. I've gotten a lot of feedback. So I'm hoping, I was really hoping this month would be a month, but it's not looking to turn out that way. So we'll see. But it's been really good. This job has been really good for me. And I've really, really enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that I'm where I'm at right now. I'm in this awesome apartment that I'm sharing with Justin. I drive a Mustang now, a convertible Mustang that I love so much. And I'm broke all the time. But like I said, I'm very good at spending exactly the amount of money I have. Though, not going to lie, lately I've been missing a bill here or there. Just had to wait a paycheck. Didn't quite plan that one out so great, but I don't know. I'm not too upset about it. I don't know. I don't know what else I want to say. You know what? There's a couple other things. I'm looking into a couple businesses. One, Legal Shield. My dad markets it like mad. Legal monthly paid legal service, and I'm not interested in the networking side of things, even though that's where the most money is. You can also sell directly to businesses, and I've always loved the idea of going into CEOs and having a face-to-face business meeting. It's one thing to sell on the phone; it's another to sell in person. I really want to get into that aspect at some point. With this job, I don't think there's a whole lot of space for it, but Legal Shield is a good way to make money. Here's the thing, though. I don't believe in it enough. I know it's a good service, but I don't want to market it. I don't. And so at one point I was really looking into that, but I don't think it's going to happen. One thing I'm really seriously considering is real estate, because obviously that's what money is at right now. And when I talk to a lot of people about it, I really downplay what I think about this. On this, I'm just going to be honest. I think it's going to change my life. I really think that once I can actually get into it for real, it's going to be my avenue to full success. It's money and the ability, freedom, the ability to quit my day job. I think it's going to get me there. It's $20,000. Sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But essentially, they give you a 90-day plan. They work with you, and one of the biggest things about it is it's a community. Even just going to like the couple of seminar things that I did, you can just feel it. Everyone there is there to be successful. Everyone is networking with each other, getting to know people. A guy will point out, "Okay, you have a deal, you have money, let's get you together." And it's a really cool, close knit community that I really am excited to be a part of. Unfortunately, I can't right now. I don't have $20,000, and I'm too young to have any of the adult options to get $20,000. But I want to get into that for real at some point. And I met a lot of the really high up people in the company, and they were impressed with me, and I was impressed with them. One thing that I really liked is that all of them looked professional. They were in suits, and they were just very professional. And so essentially what that $20,000 gets you is lifetime access and constant updates to a course in real estate. It tells you all of the different things about real estate. It teaches you about tax breaks, about all the different strategies. It's very in-depth. There's something like 100 classes and 200 hours of classes. And I'm going to do it. And that's kind of why I want to get this, because right now I'm in a decent place. I'm not super successful. I don't have a lot of stuff. I don't have a lot going for me, but I also am not in a terrible spot. But I think this is the beginning of something good. And whether that's simply a really good career within MarketStar, or something in real estate and becoming a business owner and managing properties and becoming successful and free, I think this is the beginning. I don't mean like today. I mean like the end of this year, I guess. And I'm excited. I'm very excited. And I wanted to start this before I'm successful. I'm being a little bit optimistic here, not gonna lie. I would like this to be kind of a road to success from somebody who is quiet, who is shy, afraid of people, honestly, who has almost no friends in Roy. I talk to Justin, that's it. Again, I go to work, I come home. I go to work, it's the same thing everywhere I go. And so that's why I'm hoping that multiple avenues are going to get me out of that. This job, management training, there's actually a course that's done by MarketStar. It's a very intense training course. And what my manager B said is that she had someone who went through that, and it was like night and day. I mean, when he went in, he was a lot like me. When he came out, he was confident. He was, he had the ability there, and I'm really hoping that can do the same thing for me. And then, with that, I can tie that into, real estate, other business ventures, maybe Legal Shield. Um, so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of in the works, and I'm really trying hard to be successful and to really be on the right path to full success. I realized, the other day, I don't have a degree. I don't have, an in anywhere. And my job right now is not a great job to support like a family. I mean, at some point I want family. That's a fact. Um, and I need something that I can rely on. And so that's why I'm looking at a couple different options and different things I can do. I mean, yes, I mean, my mom, my amazing mother, who's always supportive of me and an incredible woman. She's always so great, and it's been a while since I've really talked with her, and connected with her. I feel like, I don't want this to sound terrible. I feel like she hasn't approved of a lot of my decisions. I didn't go on a mission. I spend all my money. I don't have a savings. I didn't follow through with college, and I think it was all in my brain. I know she's very supportive of me, and now we're actually talking a lot more. I Marco Polo'd her for like all afternoon today. It was so much fun. And she pointed out that although I don't have a degree, I'm not working like easy jobs. I'm not working, a teller at a grocery store, a cook at a restaurant or anything like that. I'm working like solid office jobs that are going to get me, recommendations, and that are going to get me good references and show that I have a work ethic and can really work hard. And that's a very good point. And I think that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. But I'd like to be really okay versus, just okay. So. Yes, I want this series, if you will, to be a road to success, because if I can do it, anyone can do it, and I want to share that journey with you. I've been I've been looking a lot at Gary Vaynerchuk. He's kind of a vulgar person as far as dialogue goes, but he has a lot of really good ideas and a lot of good things, and one of the things he says is to be very self-aware, focus on what you know that you're good at, and what you're, really or what your strengths are, and then 200, 300, 400 times focus on that. Don't waste time trying to do things you're not good at. Pay other people to do them. Use what you're good at, and really focus on that and make it work and benefit you. And so it's something I've really been trying to do. I've been reading a lot of stuff, honestly, entrepreneurs and business owners and all that kind of stuff in general. And so I want this to be, like I said, road to success, step by step, and kind of how I feel through that process for real. I don't know. It's kind of a weird concept, and I feel a little bit silly looking at it. I'm coming up to 53 minutes of this long. I can't believe I've gone that long. But I think I'm going to wrap this one up here. That's a good intro to me, I guess, and kind of where I'm at now. And what I have in the future for me. I don't know that I'll update this all that much, simply because, like, even on a weekly basis, I mean, I've laid out everything for you. I don't think a lot's going to change on a week-to-week basis. I think on, like, a month-to-month basis, maybe. And maybe I'll get into, like processes and kind of how I'm feeling in my job and where I'm succeeding and where I'm failing and some observations. Who knows? Maybe I'll just start ranting about, my introspective thoughts on life. I have a lot of those. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I think this is the end of this one. So that's me. Hope to be successful eventually, and we'll see. So it should be fun. End of vlog 1. I'm going to timestamp it because why the heck not? It is now 5 minutes to 9 o'clock. It is November 9th, 2017. And I have nothing but good stuff ahead. So.